Oh boy, oh boy.
Oh boy.
Justin, are you there?
Jena?
Justin?
Oh,
Hi.
hi.
There you are. That is a lovely.
Gina?
No, no.
Gina? Martin? What?
That is a lovely yellow shirt you have on.
It's very yellow. I
It
like.
is very yellow. It's like canary yellow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, hi, welcome.
Welcome. Welcome to your show.
Welcome to our show,
Cordially invite you to the Jena show.
to the Justin and Jenna show. If we are sober, I don't know why he's doing that. We are here.
My
We are
head's
live.
itched.
Yeah. What? Okay. We're both sober today for separate reasons. I'm drinking water, but I like to drink it out of my wine glass because I'm fancy.
I um, had a rough last show afterwards.
He did. If you don't know, you can watch the previous show, which we did with Neil, the 604 Atheist, on Sunday. Yeah, Justin had multiple cans. I'll say that.
Never eat the can.
Yeah, don't eat the can. That's where he went wrong. But you're okay. You're recovered.
I am in recovery. Yes.
You're in recovery. Okay. Ollie Man, our one viewer. Nice to see you. My water looks purple.
You get our undivided attention.
Yeah, you do. It looks purple because the glass is tinted, sir. That's why. It's a nice tinted glass. Well, I feel like I'm breathing new air today.
Did something happen recently?
Yeah. My coworker was in the office.
That
And
is.
we have a new president.
Yeah. So, Ollie, man, that's kind of the topic. Where the current name is First 100 Days. So I don't remember how it started off with Obama, but Trump made a big deal about his plan for the first 100 days, and then subsequently made a big deal about how he did the most than of any president ever in the first 100 days, saying that he did more in 100 days than most will do in their 4 8-year term, yada, yada, yada. But anyway, so that somehow became a thing, and now we're looking towards Biden's first 100 days.
Right.
I'm not sure where that number came from, but it might stick around.
I know, because
Okay.
I know history.
I don't.
Okay. So I'll tell you, kids, or Ollie Man. So essentially, it's pretty arbitrary. There's no set constitutional standard. There's no real clear, hard reason why presidents have done this, but it goes all the way back to FDR. Basically, when he first got elected in 1933, I think. Yeah, because that was the year of the Great Depression. So, during that time, and even then, he didn't even set out to, say, okay, in my first 100 days, I'm going to do this, this, this. It was pretty much, he did the most things in like a small amount of time to turn around the economy. There was a point in time where he enacted, executive orders and rules to close down the banks for 4 days. Provided, prevented farmers at that time from insolvency. Put a lot of people to work by fixing infrastructure, by building recreation parks, fixing bridges, things like that. And various other things throughout this small amount of time, which I guess came close to or at about 100 days. So now, ever since then, and I think FDR was like the last president where he had like consecutive terms because he had up to 4. So ever since then, presidents from then on have seen the president that FDR had set. So they themselves since then have tried to do that up until, now with Biden. So, since then, no real president has come close to doing so much within their first 100 days. Ideally, especially looking at the space we're in now, it doesn't seem, I mean, it seems, I'll be honest, it seems nice if you're wanting to try really hard to, enact certain things and make hard changes and progress quicker, given the kind of climate we lived in for 4 years under Trump. It makes sense that we want to, expedite, change and, write out everything he enacted and all these, various executive orders. Yes, you're right, Ollie, man, he put in like 17 to reverse things from Trump. And I have comments on those too. But, realistically, um, I think it's not fair. I don't think fair is the right word. It's another word I want to use, but I'll just say fair. It's not fair to just look at a president's first 100 days. And especially since if a president lasts 2 terms, which is 8 years, you're are you just going to judge them based on what they accomplished in that first 100 days versus what they try to do in a span of 4 or 8 years?
So what I'm hearing and what I think you're saying is that the 100 days is basically just an arbitrary timeline to where an incoming president is just trying to woo you over in the honeymoon phase,
Mm-hmm.
where everybody is excited to have a new president in office, um, and then it's where they have the most momentum and most support. They just won, over half the country voted for them. They must have a fairly decent approval rating at that point. Um, and then we're kind of just they're gonna get as much as they can done, and then kind of ride or coax on that for as long as possible.
Yeah,
But you're absolutely right in that. I mean, that's what, like a tenth or 12th
maybe
or
less.
what, you know, like a 12th or a 14th or I can't math right now of their entire presidency. Um, you know what I mean? So it's strange that is become like a tradition of setting out. We're going to accomplish all these things in the first 100 days,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
then it's almost like they can get away with not having a plan for after that. If they can crunch all of their campaign promises into 100 days, then there's nothing. I mean, then they kind of have the open floor to do whatever they want,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no expectations after that.
Right. It's almost like you can like, okay, I can sit back and chill because, 100 days passed. I did my dues. Now everyone's just going to ride out the smoothness here. But I think, it was obviously a different time then.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the created first 100 days and how it has evolved over the years up until now, there's so many factors that, compound on it. It definitely feeds off the progress you made within your first 100 days if, you have the majority in the House and Senate, if you what the previous administration did right or wrong, if you had won your presidency by defeating them in their first term, or you're just getting yourself into that presidency after they completed 2 terms. So it depends on that past administration, depends if you hold the majority, depends on the economic climate of the country as a whole, really. Hi, Christine. I see ya.
Oh,
It's a lot of things. So it again, it seems rather unfair. And then, dialing back to what you were saying earlier in regards to Trump's first 100 days, I mean, the best I can think of that was a major thing that he, I guess you could say, was an accomplishment of his was the tax reform.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that shit because it fucked me over when I finally bought the house with me and my sister from my parents, because we would have gotten a lot back in our tax return. But since we paid so much more over on the current house that we have now, we didn't get so much back because of whatever he changed with the code and everything. So I was like, well, yay, there you go. There's that. But he was big. He bigly, I missed that word. He bigly harped on stripping the ACA, which didn't happen several times. Creating his big beautiful wall, which I think to date he only created what, 12 feet,
450 miles,
400 feet.
and
Okay. Okay.
Mexico did not pay for it.
Right. Um, so, it's a tough, hard comparison. And given the fact that he, you know, sat comfortably off of, Obama's accomplishments, and how well, there was pretty steadily increasing economic growth from his administration, and then he turns around and kind of, so should we give this first 100 days such importance as it has always been?
I don't think so because what we saw from Trump is that they hit the ground running. They had a bunch of failed um, ACA replacement proposals, and then they got the tax reform out fairly quickly. They they wrote a bunch of executive orders, but as we're seeing now, in which everybody, which I said from day one when Trump was elected, is that those executive orders only last exactly 4 years.
Mhm.
And then the very first day, the next president steps into the office, he gets to announce as one of his crowning achievements of retracting all of them, or
Mhm.
writing new ones to undo what the last guy did, and that's
Mhm.
somehow a major accomplishment, is what we're hearing now. Like Ali Man says, 9 of the 17 is to reverse things that Trump did, but I mean, we're acting like rejoining the Paris Climate Accords or the WHO is a big accomplishment. When I mean, obviously, it's something that we shouldn't have pulled out of in the first place, in my opinion. But it's not like he actually did anything. Like, we shouldn't count that as a win or a check mark in the positive column of things that he got accomplished. Not when they're just executive orders that that are just can be wiped away in 4 years. That the teeter tottering with these things is probably more disruptive than just either being all in or all out.
Mhm. No,
Um,
you're right.
so anything that's done strictly by executive orders. Now, of course, there's a lot of people that say, we want to start this trend, start down this path of
Mm.
getting these things done, and executive order is the fastest way to get the ball rolling, to kind of show the direction that you're heading in. But I mean, we have to get legislation passed that goes behind all of this. You can't just uh, issue executive orders every day and claim that to be some monumental achievement.
Mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
Trump did it all the time, and it doesn't mean anything.
Mhm.
It's an inconvenience for a couple of years. I mean, a major inconvenience for some people, like when we initiate travel bans. But and I mean now
Put a
it
stop on trans people in the military.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
all
these are all executive orders, and they're all you can count them as a win for your party, but they're not long lasting. It's not like getting the tax reform passed or the PPACA passed or appointing a judge. Those are long lasting changes that are hard to overcome.
yeah. That yeah, well, that almost brought me to another thought, but I lost it. So, I'm wondering, okay, well, I'll skip Hyatt once I think about what I was gonna say. Sorry. Um, you brought this up to me earlier, when we talked this morning, with in regards to the EOs. And of all of them, there is a mention as far as, reinstating DACA, but there is no mention of what's going on with the child cages and the asylum seekers still at the U.S. border.
I mean, I brought that up because that was something that Kathy, I think Kathy brought that up. I
Mm-hmm.
saw it,
I
and
saw it.
I was like, you make a good point. I
Good
mean,
on you, Kathy.
we are talking about immigration reform, and we're talking about um, DACA and all these things, but I mean, there's people living on these border camps, and not, the in harsh conditions, to the point where, I've never been there, but when and it's hard to say exactly, because when the Democrats went, it was like a concentration camp and it was the worst thing in the world. And then when the Republicans went, it was all sunshine and rainbows. Everybody's standing around watching DVDs and getting
Mhm.
great health care and exercise. So it's, they framed it however they wanted when they went there and picked, probably found the best or worst facility that was available at the time.
Sure.
And I'm sure there's a range of awful to semi decent care. But I mean, that's not ideal. I mean, there's no good solution until we have immigration reform, until we have more resources put into processing applications, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
uh, um, more judges, more lawyers, more places for better conditions for sleeping and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Aliman says, speaking of first 100 days, do you think Biden's plan to vaccinate 100 million people in that time is aggressive, about right, or a little light? Or where are we sitting at now with vaccines?
That's a good question. Because as far as I know, it's just been healthcare workers. I just got my first one 2 days ago, by the way, and then I'm due in like the next few weeks. So far, it's just been healthcare professionals and those that work in the nursing facilities and the most senior.
So we've been what, maybe 3 weeks? No, a month out
Mm-hmm.
now, and
I think it's still phase 1B, one something. I don't
yeah,
know.
and then we're at 12 million on their first dose, almost 2 million total vaccinated.
Mm,
So, I mean, if we keep up the pace of close to a million people a day, which is aggressive, which is good, I mean, we'll make it, right. 100 days, 100 million.
technically
Uh,
speaking, yeah.
we have to see how it goes, because I know that Biden and the current thought is changing of how we should deliver or administrate the vaccine rollout, and that we should get more people their first shot earlier, instead of reserving the second shot, um,
Okay.
and then replenish the allocated second shot as we go along. It can be risky, in that there might not be that second shot available on time in all areas,
Yeah.
but it might be more beneficial overall to society to get more people that first shot, which is where approximately 60% or so of the um, risk reduction comes from.
At the current rate, 75% of adults in the US will be vaccinated by February 2022.
So a whole year. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, ideally we would get there faster, because I think that by the next year in the fall, there's there's potentially going to be so many mutations that the vaccines won't be as effective. So we'll have to have a reformulated vaccine like we do with the flu.
Yep.
And we're gonna and our transmission rate is going to go down in the summer and then back up in the fall as well, just like it does with the flu. It's I don't know how to spell it either. It's Fauci, but
FAUCI or something like that.
so hopefully they can get that up. And mind you, we're only currently administering the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines in the U.S. The
Right.
AstraZeneca and many others. It's Johnson and Johnson has a single shot coming out, That
Merck,
or
yeah, Merck has this. It's not needle administered. It's oral.
hmm. So there's a handful of other vaccines coming down the pipeline, and I know one of them is a single shot, and then there's other double doses. However, those are delivered. They're not going to be as effective as the mRNA, just because of the way that they work. But the 70 to 80% um, 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 efficacy on a vaccine is still considered very successful.
Oh
We were
yeah.
we were only expecting 50 to 60% on the Pfizer and Moderna, and we've far surpassed the target.
Oh, absolutely. Like the level of efficacy with the flu shot alone is only around like 65 to maybe no, well, around 60 to 65. So, I mean, that's exponentially better than we've ever had.
Right? It's significantly better.
Hmm. Let's
So
see.
Johnson and Johnson plans to have 100 million vaccines for Americans by spring.
Hmm.
So they're going to be analyzing the data from their trials soon.
Hmm.
So hopefully that's just another one to throw into the mix. It's going to be easier to deliver, easier to store, easier to administer, and it's a more established platform. So more people might be comfortable getting a shot from a more well-known company in a format that is more familiar. They don't hear mRNA or DNA and these
Yeah.
scary words.
Yeah. And I mean, I understand with the lack of, being ahead of this, definitely should have been more ahead of this, so that, you could weed out all the conspiracy and the foulness, just not understanding the difference or not understanding what it really does. And keep in mind, I mean, and I just spoke with my primary just the other day about it, when I saw her. Um, Everyone is going to have different adverse reactions or different adverse effects to it. You know, it's not to say if one person experiences these chills or whatever kind of adverse reactions they have after, like, primarily after the second dose, especially with Pfizer. Um, I mean, that's not to say you may or may not either. So, you know, these are we've never had a formulary shot with mRNA of any kind with any type of vaccines that we've had in history. Yes, we've developed these vaccines quickly, but we've studied these for decades, a couple decades. So, just now having them being tested recently and on human, subjects is, we don't know how everyone's going to react. And especially if a person is, immunocompromised and, with receiving a vaccine that suppresses your immune system anyways for a while, just so that you can build up those antibodies, you're just going to have adverse reactions. It's going to be expected. If anything, just talk to your primary doctor. Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, we've used mRNA before in other treatments.
oh,
Um, it's not only vaccines. We've
mhm,
used this in cancer treatments
yeah, right.
and against other ailments. This is the first vaccine, um, but mRNA is a mature platform, a mature technology at this point. It's just the first time being used for vaccines.
Right. Yes. Thank you for clarifying. I think that's what I said or meant to say, but yes, thank you for clarifying. Um, I had a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I just lost my
Okay.
question. I think it's your yellow shirt that's distracting me. Or maybe it's my new glasses.
I look like Big Bird.
A little bit. I mean, you're extra scruffier today. So, yeah, I could see that. Sorry. No, in regard to styling back to, Biden and the, 100-day mark and stuff. Well, how do you feel about it? Just
Um,
overall.
I mean, you mean what I think he will accomplish and whether it's noteworthy.
Sure.
I mean, I'm less excited about what Biden will do
Hmm.
personally, but am looking forward to seeing if the Democrats can take advantage of controlling the House and Senate. Um, I mean, pretty much the only thing standing in their way now is the Supreme Court.
Hmm.
So as long as they stay in what relatively not neutral, but with uh, in the same trajectory as say Obama was in terms of what they're trying to do, that they can kind of push through most of the plans that they have.
Right.
Um, so if they want to say pay, have free community college, they could potentially do it.
Hmm.
If they want to, pass something more long term than DACA, a pathway to citizenship for people already living here, they could do it. There's a lot of stuff they could do, but I am not hopeful that they're actually going to do it.
Mm.
The last time, the Democrats held both the House and the Senate, um, the last time I remember them holding it was in 2010 when we passed the PPACA.
Hmm.
And granted, it was a big deal to get something done in healthcare. It was also not an ideal law. It was not
No.
an ideal package. It did
No.
not. It did not uh, solve all the problems or even come close. It felt like, because I did a report um, in school about it shortly after, in 2014, when the law started actually taking place. Because some of the things started taking place in 2010, but it wasn't until I think 14 or 15 when most of the changes kicked in, like the healthcare website and all that stuff, which was totally botched. The whole rollout was awful. Um, but they had control, and this is what they came up with, where it felt like they wrote something that worked, gave it to the Republicans, let them rewrite it completely, and then
Mm.
gave it to the insurance companies and let them rewrite it, and then said, "Okay, yeah, we're happy. Let's." And then they passed it with no Republican votes. So it's like,
Mm.
why bother playing, bipartisan politics if they're not even going to vote on it when they're done with it anyway?
Yeah, that was strange, and I do recall that a lot.
So it's, they made a lot of concessions on that they didn't need to. It's because they want, the majority of Democrats are not left leaning. They're not progressive. They're not. They're not this socialist communist.
Yeah.
Let's spread the wealth.
Yeah.
People. They're centrist, corporatist. Very very center left. They're very pro big business, just like Republicans are. And they, what we don't hear is controversy a lot about a lot of bills because they're all bipartisan because they agree on what the outcomes should be because they're very similar. Um, so I mean, yeah, we need to undo a lot of what was done. We need to pass the obvious things and stop the obvious things like the pipeline.
Mhm.
There's some stuff, but I'm not going to be impressed unless there's some legislation that actually um,
Makes it concrete.
makes it concrete, where it's enforceable, which is another problem. It's long lasting, and it actually helps a lot of people. Like decriminalizing marijuana on a federal level would be a step in the right direction, and getting everybody's records expunged that was tried or got in trouble for it. That would be something that would be impressive. But we'll
Mhm.
we'll wait and see.
No, you're right, because my biggest issue is when we do pass these federal legislations, it just seems like at the state level, they still have their own manipulative ways of putting their foot in the
Hmm.
law
It's all
and
about
making it
enforcement. Hmm.
right. Yeah, and making it, tailored to what that state wants to do, or what that no, not that state, I should say the governor wants to do, or that legislation, especially if a legislative body against is opposite party than the governor. Um, that's that's one thing that irks me. So you're right. I agree. It definitely does. We definitely need to. I mean, obviously, it's just one day so far. We'll see where things go, but I agree that it definitely does take more than all these EOs to try and reverse whatever Trump reversed from Obama, and obviously putting more work and effort in ACA, handling the U.S. border and immigration reform, fucking changing tax reform again. Oh shit, there's a lot. There's a lot. There's a lot there.
I don't think anything's going to happen with tax reform.
I know.
I mean,
That's a
as
good
much as
one.
I'd like to see it,
Mm-hmm.
there's some things that came out of Trump's tax reform that a lot of people are going to find popular.
Of
The
course.
Republicans are going to capitalize on that. Like the
Mm-hmm.
child tax credit is much higher than it used to be. So anybody with like young children is going to get a lot more money back, and it's that something like that is going to get a lot of support.
High stakes.
Whole lot.
Hola. Apparently, that's Spanish for hola.
Yeah. Um,
No, you're
but
right.
yeah, and even though it helped businesses a lot, it also helped a lot of like small business owners and stuff too. So it's going to be tough to write something that's better that gets a lot of support. I think they're going to have
Mm.
to find other income for some of the plans that they're trying to come up with.
Yeah, especially with the plan of trying to get us that steady, stimulus check. It it boggles me. I'm like, where the hell does that money come from? Do we
It,
just print out more money?
yes,
And
that's
oh,
exactly what we do.
okay, answer my own question.
And that's part of inflation and part of the trillions and trillions of dollars of national debt. We
Hmm.
just keep printing money until until somebody decides that we owe them enough money, they're going to come and fight us to take it, which is never going to happen.
That's fun. Oh, Ollie, yes, that's actually been in the back of my mind too. Thank you. I think
But
working
yeah,
to change the electoral college is important and should be worked on in some way. Yes, I agree. I agree. Because we're not in the state of how we used to be when we enacted the electoral college. Because back then, there was no easy access to news and information, and education wasn't all that great either. We're in a different society now. We don't need other representatives to cast our vote for us. It's almost kind of pointless for us to go to the polls anyway. And on top of that, we need to make, election day a national holiday. We need to make what other day am I thinking of? Hell, inauguration day a national holiday too. If do no, you know what? I have a question on that too. And I don't know any British people in the chat, so never mind. We have a Canadian. Um, does the is it the EU now? Yeah, Brexit. Do they get a national holiday off when, it's the princess's queen's birthday, wedding, whatever it is? Who last got married? Kate's sister? I mean,
if
sister-in-law?
I feel like if they had a holiday for every time the queen did something, that they found important, there would not be a lot of working days.
I mean, yeah, that's true. That's true. I feel like they got a holiday off when Kate Middleton got married. I don't know. Maybe it just felt like it to me.
Ollie Man said that Matthew Randall looks like Bret Hart, and I kind of see it.
Huh. Hold on. Yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
Good call, Ollie man. And I'm glad you're a proud Canadian. Congratulations. Um, Matthew. Um, Hi, Matthew. Oh, I deviated for what I was gonna say. Man, I'm losing my mind today. The yellow shirt. It's distracting. Um, no, but yes, I feel that election day should be a national holiday because, it was an interesting point when I was listening to the Bin podcast earlier today. But they made an interesting point to say that, it seems like another form of voter suppression.
It
Because,
is.
yeah, because
Absolutely.
yeah, because if you have, an employee that works like 12-hour days or 16-hour days, like I used to work 16-hour days, and that shit's rough. When you have employees that work like that consistently, when can you ever go vote?
You're legally required to give your employees time to vote. However, I found myself in a situation where I was planning on voting after work and was on a job that I couldn't just walk away from.
Hmm.
And then if you start something at, 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever, and then you can't just leave what you're doing. There's a lot of workplaces where you can't just clock out and leave. Then it's tough because, I mean, what do you do at that point?
Yeah.
So it's the intention is there, but it's not realistic to expect everybody to, just be able to make it.
Hmm.
And we know that more people don't vote than do vote, and it's for various reasons. And we
Hmm.
need to do everything we can to get those numbers up, including, uh, filling these loopholes of, oh, if they really want to vote, they'll figure it out. But that's not always the case. And some people work more than one job. If you're working 2 jobs or 3 jobs, it makes it even worse.
Yeah. And then the fact that with the whole recent election, you're gonna just talk so negatively and push down, mail-in voting. Now even more people are driven away from it, and especially if we just continuously living with COVID. I mean, hell, what we have another major voting next year, right? Or 2 more years, because that's the midterms. 2 years. Yeah, 2 years. Sorry, kind of thinking backwards. So that's like the major voting block for us, right? So if we can't get that together, I don't know. I want to see the electoral college abolished. I don't feel absolutely assured that it would be this time around, but it'd be nice. That I would be impressed with.
Yeah.
What are you saying, Stidix? But we want educated voters. I don't think encouraging people who don't know what they're doing to vote is overall beneficial to anything unless it triggers them getting more informed. Well, then we're not doing our due diligence to actually informing voters. I don't.
I have something for you.
Hi, Al. Go for it. What?
Whenever I find my screen, this one.
He's gonna find it. What is this?
So in 2016, I don't know if you can read it. I posted, if you're advocating for higher voter turnout, but you aren't proposing legislation to make voting more accessible and making it either a national holiday or moving it to the weekend, then I can't take you seriously.
Mm.
So that was my thoughts in November of 2016 on this, and they haven't
Mhm.
changed. That was that
Wow.
was that was when I was talking about where I was working at a job that I knew it would be near impossible to get out to vote,
Mhm.
unless you voted early or absentee or something. Prior to that, I was able to vote absentee, so it
Yeah.
wasn't it wasn't a big deal. And now we can for the foreseeable future. But you can't. Um, well, I mean, Stidix, we want educated voters, but we also want to have the right to vote, whether other people deem us as educated or not. If
Hmm.
I just say you're not educated enough to vote, I mean, I feel like you would still want the right to vote. So I mean, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah, and to add on that, Stidix, that is very powerful what you just said, because that was the same bullshit that they said to Black people not long ago. We're not educated enough. We can't pass certain, literacy tests or pay the poll tax or whatever. So if we can't do those simple tasks, then you're not fit enough to vote. So that's bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, we need to do a better job at educating people and informing people. I mean,
Hmm.
it's it's not the I mean, unfortunately, it's not the responsibility or the best interest of the politicians, especially the incumbents, who are more likely to win if nobody else knows what the hell is going on. It's not in their best interest to inform anybody of anything. But there's increasing amount of resources available with websites and pamphlets and comparative sites and stuff that would tell you, all of the candidates' policy decisions and where they stand on the issues, and what they voted for in the past and stuff like that. So it's not it's easy. We just have to let people know that it's not that difficult, that you can be informed with fairly minimal effort of just reading about this person and what they stand for and what they're promoting. um, we just have to get people to stop being so apathetic and care a little bit about the system.
But there's been a lot, and we'll read what Six has responded to. There's a lot of restructuring we have to do to make the system of voting more appealing, which is, getting rid of electoral college, having big money out of, our elections and things like that, and various other things.
To be fair, in this type of system where
Uh-huh.
one person's actions can directly affect you, then your opinion, everybody's opinion is equal. I mean, that's kind of how it works. It's how it's designed to work. Um, and I mean, so say for instance, a QAnon supporter can be informed, whatever the fuck that means in that circle, but he's still going to vote directly against my best interest,
Yeah.
and that doesn't. It, I don't see that as being any better than uninformed or voting for the right or something that's better for potentially the wrong reasons. So when you have people that are doing these voting drives saying go out and vote, they're usually not telling you directly to go vote for my candidate, but that's usually what they're implying. Um, so uh, it's tough because even the people that don't necessarily have an informed opinion or an opinion that we agree on, they still, the people that are being voted for are representing them, either way. So and their actions can affect them. I mean, I don't. I mean, I would like everybody to be informed, but I would never discourage voting, um, even if you're not informed, because
Right.
you're still voting for somebody to represent you. It's like getting, it's like, you get you do something wrong, you get a lawyer appointed to you, but since you don't know anything about the lawyer, then you just don't want him to show up, or I don't know. I don't think it's that. I don't know. We'd have to talk about this more later.
Mm. I love a good Sticks and Justin back and forth. You can catch that in the after show on the Discord.
Maybe.
M- Maybe. Okay. Maybe. Uh, it's important that it's informed voters, yes. So education and getting information out there, the correct information.
But should we hold the opinion that people that are less informed, um, should be less encouraged or less socially accepted to go vote? Not legally, because we're gonna keep saying that to kind of skirt the issue. Um,
Mhm.
but should we discourage people to vote if they don't know what they're voting for? I mean, they're voting one way or another, right? So they must have some information to make a choice, and it might just be name recognition, which is very often the case.
I'll be honest, I've done that.
Or they vote, down the party tickets,
Mm-hmm.
down the party line.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, yeah,
That's what he said. That's what he said, folks.
look at this. This
Show
is
it.
another thing.
Is this from our good friend Skeptech?
No,
Okay.
this is the U.S. debt clock.
Mm-hmm.
So that number on the top left,
Mm-hmm.
there's no decimals in there, right? So that's just one big number. That's $27 trillion. That's how much
Yeah.
we're in debt.
Yeah. Isn't that glorious?
It's like I can't.
I know. So what does it take to pay that back? I keep hearing this. I keep
It's
hearing
never.
that.
It's impossible. I mean,
Okay.
keep going, but it's impossible.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, that seems extremely so. But you know, Republicans say this all the time. Like, oh, we need to pay down the debt. We can't increase the debt. We can't do this type of social blah 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 because of the debt. So what? So what have been plans to pay down the debt? I keep hearing that we should pay down the debt or not increase it, but I don't hear what the plan is to pay the debt. What is that what taxes come from? Because taxes go to various things. So I don't understand.
Well, taxes go to various things through our budget, and our debt comes from deficits in the budget. So we
Okay.
we overspend from our budget, what we actually are bringing in.
Hmm.
Um, so it's mostly controlled through the annual budgets.
Okay.
So we're expected to bring in this much, and we're going to spend this much, and then we're going to basically tack on this much debt because of the difference. So every year they spend more than we bring in, and it's intentional. And I don't see it ever stopping because austerity measures are unpopular. So no one's going to win when they say we're cutting back on Medicare or Social Security or we're raising
Mhm.
taxes. You just can't win an election that way anymore. So it's just going to get, or we're going to slash our defense spending. Um, so it's gonna. I don't see it ever getting better because of that.
So, and I know we're deviating from like the main point, but this is interesting to me. So, okay, with you just saying that, um, actually, I don't know. I don't know what I was gonna say. Again, shit. I'm just. Oh, okay. Now I was gonna say. It may be a silly question to ask, but okay, we have a national debt. Who cares? It almost seems like, each year, each administration or each kind of whatever program we're trying to throw money at or annually create a budget for that we constantly overspend on, it just seems like, okay, great, that number is getting bigger. How how is this affecting us? Why are we in so much trouble, or why is that number so scary? That is something I never understood.
I mean, my whole life it's just getting exponentially worse, and I don't see in real time what effect that it's having other than it is a debate topic.
Right.
Um, one thing that I've thought about and talked about before is that money that we owe to other countries, like say if Japan or China holds any significant amount of our debt, it's it's not feasible for them to come collect it. The worst thing that they can do is try to give us less favorable trade conditions to make up for it. But if a country owed us trillions of dollars, we would go take it. They don't have that option. So it's our currency on a global scale is just like military fiat currency. We it's worth what we say it is, or it's only valuable because we say it is because it's defended by our military and
Mm-hmm.
our global footprint all
Mm-hmm.
around, everywhere. So it's most of it is spent on local programs, Medicare, Social Security, defense. So it does get pumped back into the economy one way or another. Um, so it's that's probably why it's not the end of the world. Um, but I don't know how they're ever gonna make it any better. It's so much money. It doesn't even seem realistic.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, that was cute, Al. This debt grows bigger under Repub presidents. I mean, I think it grew under Obama too. It grew under all of them. It just keeps growing, to be quite honest. But I understand your point. Doesn't history show that Democratic presidents bring the debt down? Um, I would have to look at that. I think that's what Justin's googling. Just look at the crazy spending under Trump. Yeah. Okay. I'm thinking that maybe we got back on the gold standard, our money would be more worth. Maybe somehow we could pay off our debt. Hmm. Are we? Well, I'm not too. I'm not an economist. We're actually gonna have a economist on our show in a couple weeks, though. Stick
No,
around for that.
save all your smart people questions for him.
Yeah, man. And most of it's Irish. Well, it's Irish Reed. Sorry, I've ruined it. Damn it. Ruined the surprise. It's Irish Reed.
So Donald Trump's debt increase by percentage uh, doesn't. I don't think it was that high. Like it was a lot, but it wasn't like the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Bush and Obama were both really up there, and I
Yeah.
think that as we get further along, and whether they like to admit it or not, both Democrats and Republicans are pushing more socialist programs, and we're using the federal government to provide social safety nets and social, bring our standard of living up using federal funds. It's gonna go up, and until somebody's willing to step up and finally admit that the only way to offset this is by taxing our hundreds of billionaires more and to
Mm-hmm.
redistributing that to now at this point. I mean, as much as any individual needs it, the federal government needs it to offset all of the debt that we've accrued. Um, until somebody, we kind of come to terms with this is what we are actually doing, whether we like talking about it or not, it's going to get worse. Because, like I said, I don't think anyone's going to get elected by campaigning on slashing Medicare or the VA or Social Security or healthcare, the other healthcare programs, Medicaid, defense, military budgets. Um, you're just not going to win that way, and
Yeah.
so it's because it's incredibly unpopular, and people we will vote ourselves into bankruptcy before we come to terms with these problems.
This is true. So it kind of feels like this whole because we went into and I'm sorry, we went into what do you call it? Government shutdown at least twice under Trump. Over those annual trying to create the budget for the new year. It almost seems like now with you explaining all that and I'm getting kind of like a baseline general understanding of the national debt and it's based off whatever kind of budget we create and we overspending it and blah blah blah. And almost creates like, man, like it almost feels pointless for all these government shutdowns to happen in my mind because it's like, well, just fucking say a number and we just create that budget and we create more money. Like, why are we shutting down the government and foregoing all these and government employees for almost nothing? Like, oh, it'll grow the debt. So what? It's been growing. Who the fuck cares?
Well, I mean, inflation is another big part of it. I mean, I don't understand it well enough, so we can ask later on. But all of this adds to inflation, and it lowers the value of our currency with other countries. So it's there are side effects to it, but I mean, I don't see any of these in real time. I don't. They don't affect me when I go to buy a house or a car or groceries. So I don't know, man. I feel like we're playing with monopoly money sometimes, and none of it makes any sense.
Well, don't pass go, Justin.
Yeah.
Don't collect that $200.
Right. So yeah, I mean, like you're saying, what's the point of pretending to care about the budget or the debt when we're at nearly $30 trillion? Like, what even is that amount of money?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
what can you not buy with $30 trillion?
Jupiter.
Are you sure?
I don't know.
Who spends on
For
selling
sale?
it? How much? So how much supply and demand is there for Jupiter?
Let me ask Jeff Bezos. I feel like he may have a cut in this. Never mind. Okay, we dove into economics, and I know nothing about economics, so we'll save that for when we have our guest in 2 weeks, which will be on, I forgot the date, February 4th. Like I said, it will be with Irish Swede. God, I don't know why I'm tongue-tied when I say that. We'll link his channel and everything a little bit later. But as someone I have become familiar with being on Neil's show, he's cool dude. He has a couple of he has a couple of videos on his channel dealing with economy and numbers and math. So what?
Numbers, things.
Numbers and math. Things I'm not cool with. So yeah, that would be in a couple weeks. What else? What else is going on? What's going on with you? Oh, thank you for showing us how you were thinking 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Please,
There's a
by
lot.
all means, subscribe, add to the Skeptech at facebook.com/Skeptech. As legit as this man with the yellow canary shirt is now, he was just as legit several years ago. So it's cool. I don't know what I was trying to say. Go ahead and like me as well on
Wow.
facebook.com/What? What?
You're hired.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And as my beautiful host said, we might have an after show in the Discord. So if you're not already there, please join tinyurl.com/discordif.
The link that works.
The link that works. It's in the description. I tested it. It works. Believe me. Oh man, I'm gonna miss I hate Trump, I do. But I'm gonna miss those little quotes or little dumb shit he used to say, like Bigley.
The man with the yellow hat. You can still say those words.
Oh.
You can make up your own.
Okay, well, whatever. Yeah, you're right. Any more announcements? Let's see. It's not Stidix's birthday anymore, so I don't know why that's there. Hi, Stidix. I guess that's it. Justin, any final words, final thoughts to our beautiful now 5 people viewers?
No. Well, I'm sure we'll keep talking about the same subject for a while. It'll keep popping up.
More than likely, yes. Unless
Well, I mean, we've seen it on Cynthia talk about it and several other people talking about it. Now that the progressives and black people and minorities and states like Georgia have won this for Biden and Kamala, they have to hold their feet to the fire. They have to stay on them. They have to basically say, look, without doing these things for us, we're not going to give you the necessary votes to accomplish what you wanted to do. There are several progressives in Congress that can make a lot of noise and hold up and do a lot of things to get their way. So they have to take a stand and make sure that the Democratic Party is keeping their promises and that they didn't just give them this win and this power for nothing and not give anything back in return, especially what they were promised. And we're already seeing slipping on campaign promises with the stimulus checks being instead of $2,000 now it's 1,400, and then they're saying, well, it's 1,400 plus 600 you already got, but that wasn't the campaign promise. That wasn't the what was announced fairly recently as a promise. So they're already being comfortable not following through. So they have to be held accountable.
I agree that we should still hold our feet to the fire and be just as tough on them as we were with Trump or any other person before that. Any person that's holding office right now that is of importance, that has the power to reverse and turn things around and make things better. I don't necessarily fully agree about the whole lax on the promise of the $2,000. Maybe that's just not me fully being informed, but I mean, we can talk more on that. That's fine. But I will say, despite all the first 100-day stuff, yes, I'm happy that it seems like we have a chance to make improvements and changes. That is, I'm gonna remain hopeful. As my Black mother would say, I'm gonna stay prayed up. To borrow a phrase. But it was inspiring. I know people have their ish about Kamala Harris, but it's inspiring for me as a Black woman to finally see, a reflection and to have that, think about, little girls in general, to see that type of representation and to know that I can aspire to be in those same footsteps. Because, no matter your opinion about Kamala Harris, whether they be negative or positive, she got there based on her own merits, which I'm proud of. And it just demonstrates that we are progressing better in this country. However slowly it may be, because it is fucking slow. But that's something to be said. And I be damned that it took this long. And God damn it, Black women just make me cry. Cause she makes me cry. Michelle makes me cry. Mandisa they all make me cry. Stacey Abrams, Shirley Chisholm, they all make me cry. But anyway, that's it. That's my spiel. All right, Canary Man, we out.
We're out.
Do this.
Out. We out. Wow.
I've been listening to a lot of Cardi B this week.
Yep. Just hang it up. Just stop.
Okay, sorry. All right, okay, we're gonna go now. Bye.